Angie Dickinson, Hollywood legend and icon of film and television, has always been admired for her grace, talent, and professionalism. From Policewoman to countless classic films, she built a career defined by charm, dedication, and an unwavering work ethic. But even a star of her caliber has encountered the darker side of Tinseltown. Colleagues whose egos, attitudes, or behaviors tested her patience and professional limits. Recently, in a candid and surprising revelation, Angie Dickinson named 7 actors she considers the most damned in Hollywood. Those whose conduct on set, behind the scenes, or in private made working with them unbearable. For fans, it was a startling peek behind the glittering curtain of fame, showing that even the most glamorous industry is not immune to conflict, rivalry, or outright hostility. Dickinson's list spans decades, highlighting individuals who clashed with her creatively, professionally, or personally. What makes the revelation especially striking is Angie's honesty. She doesn't hold back, yet she approaches it with the measured wisdom of someone who has seen the industry at its best and worst. "Talent doesn't excuse bad behavior," she said in a recent interview. "Some people might shine on screen, but off-screen, that's a different story." Hollywood insiders have long whispered about difficult actors, but Dickinson's willingness to speak openly confirms what many have suspected. Even legends have had their share of toxic colleagues. Her story reminds us that fame and skill don't always come with respect, humility, or kindness, and that surviving Hollywood often means navigating egos as big as the silver screen itself. As Angie reflects on her decades-long career, she shares not only her grievances but also the lessons learned, a behind-the-scenes glimpse into the complex dynamics of stardom, where talent and temperament collide in ways the public rarely sees. Angie Dickinson's career spans more than 6 decades, a remarkable journey that took her from small-town beginnings to the glittering heights of Hollywood stardom. She's worked with legends, shared the screen with icons, and built a legacy that has inspired generations of actors. Yet even amidst the glitz and glamour, Dickinson has encountered colleagues whose behavior left her shaking her head behind the cameras. In a recent interview, Angie revealed that not every actor she worked with was a dream to collaborate with. She spoke candidly about 7 individuals she considers the most damned in Hollywood, actors whose arrogance, unprofessionalism, or downright rudeness made working with them a challenge. "You learn quickly that not everyone's greatness translates into decency," she said. "Some people can be brilliant on screen, but that brilliance sometimes hides a very unpleasant side." The first of these difficult encounters happened early in her career. Dickinson had been cast alongside an actor whose reputation for volatility preceded him. On set, his behavior did not disappoint. Tardiness, dismissive remarks, and an unwillingness to collaborate made the production tense. "He made the atmosphere heavy," Dickinson recalled. "You felt it the moment you stepped onto the set." But it wasn't just one-off temper tantrums. Dickinson described a pattern she encountered over the years: actors who belittled crew members, dismissed co-stars, or refused to participate in rehearsals and planning. "It's one thing to have ego," she explained. "It's another to let it interfere with the work and respect of everyone else." Interestingly, some of the names on her list were not the obvious troublemakers. Dickinson's revelations surprised many, because they included actors widely admired by the public. "Talent doesn't excuse bad behavior," she said firmly. "Some people might charm audiences, but on set, it's a completely different story. And as someone who has dedicated her life to this craft, I don't tolerate that." Her insight is a rare peek behind Hollywood's polished facade. For every perfectly orchestrated performance, every red carpet smile, there are untold stories of frustration, conflict, and tension. Dickinson's willingness to name names, while still showing the diplomacy of a seasoned professional, sheds light on the hidden dynamics of the entertainment industry. Throughout her career, Angie maintained a sense of professionalism that set her apart. While others may have crumbled under the pressure of difficult co-stars, she persevered. Yet, the experiences left a mark, shaping her understanding of who to trust and how to navigate a world where fame often magnifies both talent and temper. By reflecting on these 7 actors, Dickinson not only shares moments of personal frustration, but also imparts lessons about resilience, discretion, and maintaining dignity amidst chaos. Hollywood may sparkle on the surface, she reminds us, but beneath the lights are very human challenges, egos clashing, personalities colliding, and the constant need to separate the art from the artist. When Angie Dickinson began speaking about the 7 most damned actors she had encountered, fans and colleagues alike were stunned by her frankness. Known for her poise in class, Dickinson has rarely engaged in Hollywood gossip. But after decades in the industry, she decided it was time to reveal what really happened behind the curtain, and to hold accountable those whose behavior made the craft she loved unnecessarily difficult. Without resorting to bitterness, Angie described her experiences with precision and restraint. "I don't wish anyone harm," she said. But truth is truth. Some actors made the set miserable, not just for me, but for everyone. The first of those names, she hinted, was a towering male star from Hollywood's golden age, a man admired for his rugged masculinity and commanding screen presence. He was larger than life, she recalled, but he treated everyone around him like they were lucky to breathe the same air. He dismissed directors, shout at assistants, and act as though every scene was a favor he was doing the rest of us. Despite his talent, Angie remembered the tension that would fill the room whenever he walked on set. He could charm the press, but the crew knew the truth. Another name on her list was a suave leading man from the 1960s, famous for his good looks and effortless charisma. Off camera, however, Dickinson said he was shockingly condescending. "He talked down to women constantly," she said. "If you had an opinion or tried to contribute an idea, he'd smirk or make a joke out of it. It wasn't just disrespectful, it was exhausting." These early experiences shaped Angie's approach to her career. She learned to stand her ground, to demand respect without raising her voice. When you're a woman in Hollywood, especially back then, you have to find your balance between grace and strength, she explained. You can't let their ego define your worth. Still, Dickinson made it clear that these encounters weren't just about personal clashes. They reflected a deeper problem within the industry, a tolerance for arrogance when it came wrapped in fame. Back then, people excused bad behavior because it came from stars, she said. Producers didn't want to lose box office power, so they turned a blind eye. But that kind of indulgence poisons a set. It ruins creativity and morale. Angie's honesty struck a chord with fans, particularly younger actors who have faced similar situations. Her words reminded them that success doesn't justify cruelty, and that even in an industry obsessed with image, integrity still matters. "I don't hold grudges," she emphasized. "I just remember who made the work harder than it needed to be, and sometimes those memories stick longer than the applause." As the list unfolded, the tone of her recollections shifted from frustration to reflection. She acknowledged that some of these damned actors eventually changed, mellowing with age, or confronting their reputations later in life. Some of them realized what they'd done, she admitted, and I respect that. But others never did. They carried that arrogance until their final curtain. In sharing these stories, Dickinson wasn't trying to expose scandal. She was, in her words, telling the truth as someone who's seen it all. Her revelation reminded the public that behind every glamorous premiere and polished interview lies a workplace like any other, filled with personalities that can either inspire or destroy the spirit of collaboration. For Angie Dickinson, the names may be remembered for their fame, but the lessons they left her with are far more enduring. That respect is earned through kindness, not clout, and that no amount of stardom can hide a person's true nature when the cameras stop rolling. By the time Angie Dickinson reached the height of her career in the 1970s, she had learned to navigate the minefield of Hollywood personalities with quiet strength and unwavering professionalism. She knew when to smile, when to speak up, and, most importantly, when to walk away. But even her grace couldn't shield her from the egos and tempers that often lurked behind the glitz and glamour. In this chapter of her truth-telling, Dickinson reflected on the hidden battles that defined much of her experience on film and television sets. It wasn't always about shouting or open hostility, she explained. Sometimes the most toxic behavior was subtle. Little jabs, power plays, or moments where someone tried to make you feel small. One actor she described fit that mold perfectly, a respected dramatic performer with a reputation for intensity. He was brilliant, she admitted, but he thought the world revolved around his talent. He'd rewrite scenes, ignore direction, and treat co-stars like they were just there to make him look better. Angie recalled one particularly heated day on set when he openly mocked her for questioning a line change. I looked at him, smiled, and said, "If you want to play all the parts, maybe I'll take the day off." The crew laughed, and for the first time, he had nothing to say. Another name on her list was an actor whose arrogance wasn't masked by charm. He didn't even pretend to care, she said. He'd show up late, complain about everything, and act like every production was beneath him. Dickinson remembered how morale on set would plummet the moment he arrived. "Everyone walked on eggshells," she said softly. "That's not artistry, that's abuse of power." But Angie's stories weren't all bitterness. She also shared moments of solidarity when other cast and crew quietly supported her, offering small gestures that made a big difference. There were good people too, she reflected. Camera operators, makeup artists, and directors who'd give you a reassuring nod or a kind word when things got tough. Those people kept me going. Behind every scene the public adored, there were untold tensions, moments that never made it into tabloids or interviews. Dickinson described how, during one particularly difficult shoot, she'd go back to her trailer, close the door, and simply breathe. Sometimes that's all you can do. Take a deep breath, remind yourself why you love what you do, and carry on. What makes Angie's revelations powerful isn't the gossip, it's the honesty. She isn't out to destroy reputations or settle old scores. Instead, she's pulling back the curtain on the emotional toll of working in an environment where power and insecurity often collide. "You can't spend a lifetime in this business without scars," she said. "But those scars remind you that you survived it, and that you did it your way." She went on to explain that these experiences shaped her approach to future projects. "After enough difficult encounters, you learn to spot the warning signs early," she said. "You know who respects the craft, and who's there just to feed their ego." While her stories reveal moments of hardship, they also underscore her resilience. Angie Dickinson didn't just survive Hollywood, she mastered it. She found ways to maintain her dignity, even when surrounded by chaos. "If someone tried to intimidate me, I'd let them talk themselves out," she laughed. "Then I'd go back to work and give the best performance I could. That was my revenge, doing the job better than they expected." In the end, these hidden battles made Angie stronger, wiser, and more compassionate. They taught her that success isn't just about fame or accolades. It's about endurance, authenticity, and the courage to call out bad behavior, even when it's unpopular. "You don't forget those moments," she said, "but you also don't let them define you." When Angie Dickinson decided to reveal the final names on her private list, the 7 actors she called the most damned, she did so not with bitterness, but with a certain calm resolve. "It's not about revenge," she said in her trademark soft but steady tone. "It's about honesty. After a lifetime in this business, I think I've earned that." By now, she had already described the arrogance, manipulation, and quiet cruelty she'd faced from some of Hollywood's brightest stars. But the final few names, she admitted, were harder to talk about, not because they were the most famous, but because they were the most disappointing. One of them had once been a close friend, a leading man whose charm and charisma had lit up the screen for decades. "He was magnetic," Angie said. "Everyone loved him. I did too once." Their friendship had blossomed during a film in the late 1960s, but as fame grew, so did his ego. "He started believing his own legend," she explained. The kindness vanished. He became cruel in small ways, always needing to be the center of attention, always making sure others felt smaller. The betrayal stung deeply, and it changed the way Angie viewed the industry. "You realize that fame can corrupt even the best souls," she reflected. "It's a dangerous thing when people start to believe the applause is love." Another name she mentioned was a well-known comedian, beloved for his humor, but infamous behind the scenes for what she described as emotional bullying. "He made people laugh on camera," Angie said, "but off camera, he made people cry. His jokes turned cutting, his charm manipulative. He thought cruelty was wit," she said. "And for years, people let him get away with it because he was talented. That's how toxic behavior thrives." But perhaps the most shocking revelation came when she spoke about a director, not an actor, but someone whose influence shaped generations of stars. "He was brilliant," she admitted, "but he believed pain created art. He pushed people too far. I saw him humiliate actors just to get a reaction, and when you're young and desperate to prove yourself, you think that's normal." She paused before adding, "It's not. No great film is worth losing your dignity." Angie's candor wasn't meant to scandalize. It was a reckoning. She spoke for the countless actors, especially women, who had endured similar treatment in silence. "For years, we were told to smile, keep quiet, and be grateful," she said. "But that silence comes at a cost. It eats at you." When asked if she regretted naming these people, Angie smiled faintly. "No," she said. "I'm not naming them to destroy them. I'm naming them because their behavior shouldn't be erased. You can love their work and still acknowledge the harm they caused. That's the truth of Hollywood. Beauty and rot existing side by side." In her later years, Angie Dickinson became something of a quiet mentor to younger performers, offering advice, perspective, and above all, honesty. "I tell them this," she said. "If someone tries to make you feel small, remember that their cruelty says more about them than it ever will about you." Even as she revealed her list of the most damned, she ended with grace. "Not everyone who hurt me was evil," she clarified. "Some were broken. Some were scared. Hollywood does that to people. It makes them forget who they were before the spotlight." Her words carried the weight of experience, not anger. "I've seen the best and worst of this town," she said. "But through it all, I never let it take my joy completely. I still believe in what movies can be: magic, escape, truth. But the truth has to start with how we treat each other. And that, perhaps, is Angie Dickinson's ultimate legacy, not just as a screen icon, but as a survivor who dared to speak openly about the darker corners of fame. "I don't need applause anymore," she said softly in her final reflection. "I just want honesty, from others and from myself. That's how you make peace with your past."